So DHCP is also similar, right? You need to add the DHCP servers first, and then you create the smart architecture. So DHCP, the smart architecture that we have is failover. Basically, this is one-to-one or one-to-many. Let me see this one. Architecture smart. Okay, we have one-to-one, which is the failover, DHCP failover. One-to-many, which is also DHCP failover, but one master with multiple slave. Split scope, usually on Microsoft for those that have not support DHCP failover, and also single server. You just want to set up one first. Okay. My advice is when you want to do testing or you want to roll out, it's best to create one, add the DNS server first, and then create one smart architecture, right, for simple testing. So it's easier to switch from a standalone one from a single, right? When you want to put a DHCP failover between two DHCP servers, then it's easier to just switch to one-to-one. Then you just add the next DHCP server when it's ready to be deployed. Okay, because if you manage everything from this one DNS server, it is still possible, right? But it's basically easier or simpler when you create a smart architecture, because later on you are going to follow the same method of deploying. So what you normally do is do the same thing, add the DHCP server, create the smart architecture, and then you can start to make to configure the settings from the smart. So you click on it. This is where you define the scope. Okay, you create the scope or the network. In this case, is the 210.0.220 and these three networks which I created. So you click on add a DHCP server scope, DHCP scope, put in the parameters, the name, the network address, the net mask, the prefix, right? For example, test network 0. Okay, so it's a /24. Just leave it none. Click OK. Then this one will create a network. So again, the hierarchy is the same. You have to select the server, the network, the range. Then you will see the lists. So I've created one scope over here, which is the network, right? And then I want to create a range for this network. So I just hit to range, right? Or I can, from all scopes, click on the network which I just created, and then it will straight away go to the all ranges. And this is where I specify the range. So I want to set 50 to 100. Okay, then you click next. You can specify ACL if you need to. If not, you just proceed to OK. So we have created the range. So now it's already been pushed. So once you get an IP address list, it will appear over here, right? So if you want to set, you want to add an IP address, but without assigning an IP. For example, you just want to allow this particular device to get an IP from this network, for example, you can just go to all settings and add in the MAC address that you want and the IP address. Okay. So let me show you one example of a client getting an IP address. So I have Smart here, and I just go to all lists. So at this point, I do not have any IP addresses being assigned. I'm just going to run one client, Windows client. So make sure I'm getting correct interface for run. So just refresh this, it should show something. Static this DHCP, I enable it. Config 210.102, and I refresh this. I get a IP address assigned, the MAC address, start time, expected end time, the host name, the range of IP address where it's coming from, which network, right, and when is it going to expire, and the status. So if I refresh this, the expires in will change after 1 minute. And so there's a counter over here. So you see the percentage is increasing. 3% now. So basically all the leases that is provided will appear over here, right? The options, how you want to set the options, the DNS options, the router options. Okay, so basically if you click edit properties over here, sorry, properties, click properties, you will see DHCP options, right? In this case, it's just one authoritative. What you want to do is you edit, and then you specify the domain name. Okay, the router. This time. Okay. So once you configure these DHCP options, once the IP list has been listed out, you will get, the client will get these options being pushed down. Okay, so the network which I have is actually coming from it's coming from 210, right? So 210, I'll just head into the properties and you will see these are the options that is provided. And this is provided to the client. So the default list time, max list time, minimum list time, the routers, the DNS domain name servers is coming from this DHCP options. Okay. And this properties page will also show you this number of lists that was being provided. Again, this can also be a gadget that can be added into the main dashboard by clicking this button, right? You can zoom in, zoom out. So in this case, I only have provided just one list, number of lists available. So this is sum of DHCP range, capacity, number of active DHCP lists. Right, so there's the sum is still 100 because I only have one client, right? Okay, again, you can zoom in, zoom out. Current hour will show you all this information about the lists. Okay. Any questions on the DHCP part?
Where can I see an IP pool that can be allocated as DHCP?
The IP pool. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the pool, right? 100 to 199. When you click on it, these are the IP addresses being used. So this is on the DHCP portion. Okay. If you want to actually see the network, then you go to IPAM. Okay. So I have a space here. This acme. Then I go to 210. Then you can see the 102 over here with this IP address.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the reason why I did not show this in the first place is you need to set the modules. Remember the dashboard, the main dashboard. There is this RC, the module, internal module setup, right? If you click on it, you will need to select IPAM and make sure you check this, both of this button. Okay, this one is very important. So once you check this button, whatever that assignments that was issued by the DHCP, in this case, this particular client, will appear in the IPAM over here. And inside the DHCP server, smart architecture, when you set it up, make sure you select these options, push lists to IPAM, so that whatever IP address that has been assigned will be pushed into IPAM. Remember, the IPAM is a separate engine from the DNS and DHCP services, so you need to make sure that it's linked and it's updated into the IPAM. Similarly for DNS. So when you enable the IPAM module, you do not need to manage DNS and DHCP separately on the separate page, right? Let me show you how I manage on the IPAM. So on IPAM, you need to create a space, which is the container for everything. So if you create a Shinwu TNS space, then inside this space contains all the network about Shinwu TNS. So once you create the space, you create the architecture. Remember the IP plan? So you create the parent, and then you create a sub networks from here. Right. So what I want to do is, this is a block, right, which I created, which is the parent. So once in this block, I want to create another network. You see the 230 did not appear here because we created in DHCP. So now I want to manage everything from IPAM. So this is the power of solid server IPAM. So you create everything from IPAM. So I create a network here, which is 172.168.231.0. Sorry, this is a name. So I just put in test network 231. I will put in here 231.0. Right? And gateway is specified automatically. So this one, if it's not 254, you must change it to whatever gateway that is being used in that network. Okay. So the pool, we can leave it as it is. Right? If you click 1, then it will ask you to add the range. Okay. So for simplicity, I just create the network first. So this will create a network 231. Okay. This network will then also appear in the DHCP under the spot architecture. Okay. That's network 231. But inside is still empty. So you don't need to configure anything yet from the DHCP. Everything has to be done from the IPAM. Okay. So again, go to the space. This is the network which I just created. Click on it. Then you can see the list of IP addresses in this particular network. But everything is still free. Free means I can use to assign a device to it by having the MAC address. So example, I want to assign 2. So how do I assign a .2? Right, there's no .2 over here. So what you can do is you can actually click address over here and put in .2 on the IP address over here, or expand this. You see the plus button, expand, and it will show you the next 10. Then you can use this to assign. So this address is free. Do you want to assign? You assign it. Just select none. Right, so now it's selecting .2, give it a MAC address. Okay, a short name, test client. Next. So this is for the DNS. You're gonna add any alias. If not, just click OK. So now we have this name, testclient.acme.corp, with this MAC address, right, assigned to in use. So now you can see that this client is already created in IPAM and also in the DNS. So we have this testclient.acme.corp in the DNS. So if you head to the DNS, under the zone acme.corp, remember the filter, and you do a test client is assigned with .2, 231.2. Okay, this is just telling you that, okay, this IP address has been assigned for this client. So if you head back to the spaces, this IP address is in use, is being shown as in use. Right. Advanced properties. So now, if you want to assign this to a client for DHCP, then you enable this set. So now you check this, and now this MAC address will then be assigned to this particular, this client will be assigned with this particular IP address .2. Right. So once you check this, you click OK, next. Now it will change from in use to reserve. So now this IP address will not use the test client that we just assigned. It will use the host name that we set. And the IP address will be given out by the DHCP. Okay. So now if you head to the DHCP, you will not see all range because we have not created any, but we can see all statics. So this IP address is assigned to this MAC address, right? And once it's assigned, you will start to see all the other information set to it. Okay. So let's hit networks. So that is for a static DHCP static client, which means only for this MAC address you will get assigned with this IP. So now how do we create a DHCP range from the IPAM? Okay, so you head to the pools, create add, give it a name. Change the start and end address. Oh, 100. Okay. Click OK. So now we have a pool, the DHCP range. So on the IPAM now, we can see that this IP range 50 to 100, 50 all the way to the 100, we will set as this pool and will be used by the DHCP. Okay, so when you head to the DHCP now, you will see this network will now have a range. It's not appearing yet. 3.1. Oh, okay. I forgot one thing. When you create that range, all pools, okay. So I forgot to add this. You need to select all advanced properties, and then you create a DHCP range. Okay, so now we have created a DHCP range. Okay, range created. the network should show the changes. So now it shows reserve instead of free, right? Then in the DHCP ranges, you will see 231 listed there, 231. Okay, I will go to the smart architecture, 231 ranges created. Okay, yeah, okay, one last thing before I end off, because it's going to be lunchtime. So when you create the networks, this network 231, make sure you edit the properties and define the options. Right, for here you see these DHCP options. Make sure it's populated. If not, the clients will not get anything. Right, the routers will be automatically be there. Once you set all these, you see the domain name and router. Once you set all these, add the network. Once you head to the DHCP servers for that particular range, you'll see the DHCP options appear, the domain name and the routers. Okay, I think this is as much as I can cover for today. It's taken too much time already, so I don't want to take too much of your time for lunch. So any questions before I end this, and we will continue tomorrow. If you have any questions, we can also address them tomorrow morning. Yes.
Jason, can we email to you additional question?
Yes, sure, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you deliver the presentation PPT through both or our email?
I'm so sorry, I can't share the slides. If you can tell me what you actually really need, I can take part of it and share with you, but I cannot give you the full slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what I've done is I have recording available as well. Once I converted the recording, I will share to a Dropbox and share to you guys as well.
Yeah, and I also provide the links, the video links to you.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, everybody.
I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, same time. Have a good day.
Okay. Okay, see you next morning.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.
Need to ask your questions on the email. Thank you so much.
Okay.